record us and
Rabbi, don't buy yourself some sense of humor, okay? You think I don't know him?
No, I'm talking to Moshe. I said,
I understand.
Moshe, I'm sorry that our internal struggles, internal little fights, battles.
What
The Jews
fight?
we-
What battle?
No, but
I don't know.
to be
It's
excited.
a battle for
Sometimes
you. For
little
me, it's no
conflict.
battle.
Ping pong is called the Jewish boxing.
Okay.
Ping.
We're going to start with Sota, page Beis, Daf Beis, really the first page. I never said to learn Sota during the days of Sfira. There are 49 Daf. Finish one a day, Mitzvah Hashem. Finish for Shavuos. There are others that do Masech Shavuos during this time. The other said to do Sota. We do both.
Right.
Okay, we begin with Mekana the Ishtay, someone who warns his wife. We know that in Torah, if someone warns the wife not to be with another person, and she went with him in seclusion, but is unsure if anything was committed or so on, and there's a process of going to the Beis Hamikdash to drink certain waters, which we'll discuss, which basically proves her innocence or not. And the person that she was with, if they're guilty, he also, wherever he is, will just die. But how does this process happen? So the Gemara discusses it. Kind of the Ishtay, one who warns his wife. He has to warn her in front of two witnesses. He can't just come and say in front of one witness, I don't want you to be with a particular individual. And then if she violates this, because she was with somebody, the person that he said not to, and one witness saw her go into a separate room, wherever it was, then he could say, you now have to go and drink the water in the Beis Hamikdash. Not only that, but she is forbidden to be with him until this is clarified. And because he warned her in front of two witnesses, and just one witness saw it. Or even he himself, he could be the witness. The husband himself saw that I told you not to hang out with John, not to be secluded with John, and she went with John. And regardless of details, it has to be verified. That is Rabbi Lezer's opinion. Two witnesses for the warning, and one witness for the violation of the warning, or even the husband himself. Rabbi Yeshua Eimer, he says no. He warns her with two witnesses, and she has to violate that warning based on two people that saw her with that person in seclusion, going into seclusion. Okay, machlekes. Do you need two witnesses or one? Case of Maknala. How does he warn her? He tells her in front of two individuals. Again, both opinions of Ezra and of Yeshua both say that the warning has to be in front of two witnesses. So he tells her in front of two witnesses, Al tadabri mishpleni, don't speak to this person. If v'dibra imay, she spoke to him, adayin he muteres leveisa muteres lecha b'truma, she is still allowed. She spoke to him. She didn't do anything wrong. Speaking is wrong in its own way, but she didn't do. So she is still permitted to be with her. By the way, welcome to all the 8 people that are watching online. We're glad you're here. She's still mutter. She's still allowed to be with her husband, and she's still permitted to be to eat truma if he was a kohen. We know that a kohen could eat certain foods. One of them is truma. Regular people cannot eat this holy food. Levi Yisraelim. And the wife of a kohen is allowed to eat it as long as she's married to him. Once this violation happened and she was suspected of being with another person, suspected means he warned her not to, and then in front of one witness or two witnesses, depending which opinion, she was in seclusion, she gets, she now has, she can't be with her husband anymore, and she can't eat truma until it's verified. It gets verified again through drinking this, the Meiseta, the whole process that happens in the Beis Hamikdash. So if they just spoke together, even though they were warned not to speak together, it doesn't cause any prohibitions here. And he can't force her to drink anything or prove anything. You don't have witnesses that she did anything wrong, she's fine. However, if she went into him in seclusion, the Shah and she stayed there the amount of time that it takes to become impure, Asura lebesa, she is then prohibited to be with her husband. Asura lachal b'truma, and she's prohibited to eat truma unless she goes to the Beis Hamikdash. They drink the drink, and she's proven to be innocent. Otherwise, it's a problem. The mace, and if he passed away, and they don't have any children, so the halacha is that
he passed away.
Yeah, let's say she's in the status where she was warned and she didn't listen, and now she ended up she was with someone, and then after that he passed away. She did not yet drink from the waters. She can't drink from the water to prove her innocence because the husband is dead. But she has to marry. Normally, if they don't have children, she has to marry her husband's brother. Either marry him or do chalitza. These days we don't do the yibum. Chalitza is done. Right? If a couple gets married and the husband dies without any children, then she has to marry the husband's brother. If she doesn't want to, or he doesn't want to, then she does chalitza. It's a form of a divorce, we'll call it. It's a different process. And then she's free to marry whoever she wants. In this case, she's not allowed to marry the brother because she's now suspected of being unfaithful. And rather, all she does is chalitza. They do this process where she gets divorced. Okay, so in summary, we have a machlekes. What's the process? There's a difference of opinion. What's the process that a woman goes into that status of she's prohibited until she's proven innocent? He has to warn her about a particular individual in front of two witnesses and say, I don't want you to be with this person. And then she has to violate that either in front of two witnesses, according to Rabbi Eliezer, or according to Rabbi Yeshua, she violates it even in front of, according to Rabbi Eliezer, in front of one witness, she violates that. Someone saw her violate it. Or the husband himself saw. Or, according to Rabbi Yeshua, you have to have two witnesses that sees the violation, that she went into seclusion, even though he said not. Okay. Now, they want to ask a very interesting question. Why is the Masechta of Sota in this particular place in Gemara? Mechti, let's see, Tana min Nazir Sadik. The Tana, he just finished the Masechta before Sota is Nazir, which talks about someone that is promises to be a Nazirite, which means he's not going to drink wine, he's not going to go to the cemetery, he's not going to cut his hair, and all the laws associated with that. So we just finished that whole volume of Gemara, and now we're coming to the laws of Sota. My Tana, the Katani Sota. What did we learn in Masechta Nazir that now you decided to teach us Sota? Which is a normal question, but we wanted to ask, why is this Masechta here? So we take you to Rabbi. The Tanya, it's like Rabbi, because we learned in the Brayso, Rabbi says, Lomba nismecha parashas Nazir, the parashas Sota. Why is the section in the Torah when it talks about Nazir, which is the person that says he's not going to drink any wine, or cemetery or cut his hair, why is it next to the section in the Torah when it talks about all the laws of Sota? The whole process taken to Beis Hamikdash and what she drinks and the writing that's written on the parchment and the whole situation of all the laws associated. Why in Chumash? Why are these two together? To tell you, anyone that sees a Sota in her, let's just say, not nice situation. In other words, she's going through the whole process in the Beis Hamikdash. It's not very honorable. If someone sees that, he should prohibit himself, refrain from drinking wine. Why? Because wine leads to frivolous behavior and things that are not could lead to Sota behavior. Basically, don't get drunk. If you see it, be careful with the wine. If you like the Gemara, if that's the case, so that's why you finished learning about Nazir, then you went to Sota, because it's associated. If you see a Nazir, don't behave. If you see a Sota, don't drink wine. Okay? If that's the case, as the Gemara, then do Sota first. Listen to Sota. The Masechta of Sota should be first, the Gemara, and then tell us about Nazir, which is normal. I saw the Sota situation. Now I'm going to be careful with my drinking. Right? Well, how do you listen to Nazir? Why is it the other way around? So the Gemara answers, Aidi b'tana ksubis, b'tana hamadir, b'tana nedarim. Because we learned Masechta ksubis, and in ksubis we have a parak called hamadir, which is all the laws. Ksuba is a marriage contract. So the Masechta of ksubis talks about all different things regarding the husband and the wife, and among them there is a chapter about promises. If he makes a certain promise, he's not going to be with his wife or give his wife or various things. What are the laws? Or if she makes a promise. Now, promises is the same category as nedarim. There's a whole volume that talks about nedarim. So we went from Masechta Ksubis, because it has a parak of Hamadir. We went from there to Masechta Nedarim, which talks about promises. Once we spoke about promises, we went to Nazir, because Nazir is similar. It's a promise about oneself. He says, I'm not going to drink wine. It has the validity and the strength of a promise, actually more than a promise. So the sequence that happened was, our question in Gemara is, how do you end up with Saita here, from Nazir? So we said, well, you started with Ksubas. Then you went to Nazir, because it's Nidarim, promises and promises. From there you went to Saita, to Nazir, from Nidarim to Nazir. And once you had the Nazir situation, then you went to Saita because you want to keep them together. But I did Tanidarim, Tanazir, the Dami, the Nidarim. Once you spoke about Nidarim, then you taught about Nazir, because it's similar to Nidarim. And you taught us the laws of Saita, just like Rabbi, and who says if you see the process of a Saita happening in the Beis Hamikdash, you should become a Nazir from the wine, because that leads to these things. Okay, that's this first section of Gemara. We want to know why the Gemara is here. There's two dots that ends this section, and we're on to another piece of Gemara. We're not going to do the Rashis now. If you have time, you can go back to them. Says the Gemara, let's try to deduce from the word Hamekane, if someone warns his wife, the term that the word that the Mishnah uses is Hamekane, if someone does it, which sounds like
Hamekane is if someone does it.
Right. That's what the Gemara wants to learn out. The Mishnah doesn't say makne, one warns his wife. It says if someone warns his wife, which means the eved in the chatchil. If you already did it, here's the process. For whatever reason, the husband told his wife, I don't want you to do this to somebody in front of two witnesses. Okay, so now she's forbidden if she violates it, but that's only after the fact. The chatchila, the Mishnah is hinting to you, don't do this. Deal with it. Whatever has to be dealt with, deal with it. Work it out. But to start warning her not to go with people, it's not the normal way of, it's not ideal. It's b'di'evet. It's not lechatchila. Because it says hamekane. The eved in lechatchila. Because savar tana didan osur lekanes. Our Tana is of the opinion, the Tana of our Mishnah, the author of our Mishnah says that really one is prohibited to do this. If you did it, then here are the rules. And they're very strong rules. But if you did it, then okay. Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Yitzchak said the following: whenever the Shlokish would start the laws, the whole section, and talking about the Seita rules, Amar Hachi, he would say the following. This was his introduction when Rabbi Shmuel bar Yitzchak would talk about Seita. He said like this: a person is not given a wife from Shemayim, right? You're not given a wife only based on his actions. Okay? It says in Tehillim that the staff of the wicked will not rest in the lot of a righteous one. Which basically means wicked end up with wicked and righteous end up with righteous. So you learn from here that from Shemayim, when they pair people, they pair the good one to the good one, and a good person is not going to end up with a bad person. And Rabbi bar Yechana said another thing, in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, that it's difficult to create shidduchim, so to speak, in Shemayim. It's a very difficult process. It's as difficult as splitting of the sea, which is, obviously nothing's difficult for Hashem, but you're changing the course of the process of nature, you're changing things around. It's a very big deal to create these matches among shidduchim among people. We learn it out from a pasuk. It says Hashem is settling individuals at home, which means He makes shidduchim. He took out those that were in captivity in kesharis in the appropriate season, in a pleasant season, implying the fact that the pasuk refers to getting married and kriyas yamsuf together. We learn that Yehuda, Rabbi bar Chana said in the name of Rabbi Yechanan that the Samira would say that you should know marriages are as difficult to create the shidduchim are as difficult as splitting of the sea. Okay. The Gemara says, 1 second, you're telling me it's so difficult, and you're telling me that it's based on a person's actions. If you're good, then you end up with a good person, and if they're bad, they end up with a bad person. Aini, that's not the case. Why not? They have a contradicting teaching. There's a teaching that tells us, that Yehuda told us in the name of his teacher Rav, that 40 days before the baby is formed, before the fetus is even formed, baskol yetzes ve'meres bas pleni the pleni. Before a child is formed, 40 days before, meaning very, very early stages, a heavenly voice comes out and says, the daughter of so-and-so, meaning that girl, is going to marry the son of so-and-so. Okay? Bayis pleni the pleni. And the same heavenly voice declares that the house of so-and-so is going to end up with this one. In other words, that's where he's going to live. His house, his section, his piece of land. And so the pleni the pleni. And this field goes to this person. So how could you tell me, Rabbi Baruch Hana, how could Shmuel ben Yitzchak say that you don't a person named Rish Lakish, that you don't set up a person from Shamayim, they only get married to similar ones? That means that they look at you when it's time to get married and they say, is this a good person? He needs to go with a good person. If he's not a good person, I have to give him the right pair. But that's inaccurate, because we just learned that before a person is born, it's already destined that Moshe is marrying Leah. It's done, whatever. Sarah, it's done. Aaron is marrying Sarah. It's done already. So later you have free choice. Later you grow up and you make your own decisions if you're going to be a good person or a bad person. Right? So how could you say that you match up? Before a baby's born, everyone's tzaddikim. It's afterwards they make different choices. You can't say Hashem is basing it based on that, because that takes away free choice. So which one is it? Is a shidduch made from Shemayim before a person is born? It's already destined who they're going to marry to find each other, but still it's already destined. Or is it based on your actions? A good person ends up with a good person, and the opposite. Like Kasha, one answer says it's not a problem. Hub is zivug rishon, hub is zivug sheni. This is the first marriage, this is the second marriage. First marriages are done based on whatever was said in heaven, and second ones, it's already, again, this is one of the answers, how we reconcile this. This is the answer, how we reconcile this contradiction, is that it's not based on what was declared in heaven, it's based on who the person is. They get someone that is a right fit for them. If they're good, they get it good. If they're not, okay. Back to the Mishnah. This ends this piece of Gemara in the next section. Rabbi Lezer says, we learned in the Mishnah that Rabbi Lezer says that you have to have two witnesses that she violated the warning. Rabbi Yeshua says one witness is enough. Okay? Or even he himself. Sorry, the other way around. Rabbi Lezer says that you have to warn her in front of two witnesses, and she violates that even with one witness. And Rabbi Yeshua says, no, you have to have two for both. The violation has to be in front of two witnesses. By the way, that means he's more lenient. Because if he says that you have to have two that she violated, it's harder for her to get caught. In other words, you're not looking to create this division between the husband and wife. Till now, these two opinions, Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua, are only arguing regarding the warning, you have to have two witnesses, and regarding the seclusion, Rabbi Yeshua says one is enough. Sorry, you have to have two, not one, right? But regarding actual impurity, in other words, if they actually did something wrong together, then even one witness is enough. You want to later discuss, what do you mean, no one sees it? But there's certain indicators that if they're caught even by one witness, no warning is needed, and no no violating of the warning is needed. If one witness saw them sinning together, then we trust him. Okay? In general, it's a big discussion. When do you need two witnesses? When do you need one? For monetary issues, you need to have two witnesses. You believe one witness when it comes to prohibitions, like Isurim as opposed to Moina. But in this case, the Gemara is clarifying that this whole argument between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, if you need two witnesses or one, that you violated this warning, is only in regards to the actual warning or violating the warning, but not regarding Tumah itself. If they actually sinned, then one is enough. One is believed. We also learned in the Mishnah that will back this up. One witness says, I saw that she became impure. She would not drink. She would not drink. Once one witness comes and says, I saw her that she sinned, there's no drinking the waters anymore. The waters is if it's a doubt, and you're not sure, and you want to prove. If one witness saw, she has to leave the marriage. She doesn't get the ksuba, which would be the monetary compensation, you could call it, But the rules of for divorce, the husband has to pay. She doesn't get any of that because one witness saw her and it's over. Okay. Asks the Gemara, you're telling me that one witness is enough. Where do you see biblically that one witness is believed? Usually we say you have to have two witnesses. You're telling me this is a pretty extreme statement, that one witness saw them sin, it's over. Maybe he made it up. Because we learned, the pasuk says ve'ed ein ba, when it talks about the one of the cases of violating a woman, it says there's no witnesses there. No witnesses there, but it says it's singular. Ve'ed ein ba. B'shnayim hakasav v'daber, the Torah is talking about two witnesses, even though it says eid instead of edim, which would be the normal way to say plural, but it says eid, that is telling you the Torah is talking about two witnesses. How do you know it's two witnesses? Maybe eid means one. That's usually what it means. How do you know that in this case when it says aid, it means two witnesses, not one? Because there's a pasuk somewhere elsewhere in Devarim that says one witness cannot come on a person and make him guilty, right? You can't use one witness to prove your point. One is not enough. You have an argument about monetary issues. You did borrow, you didn't pay back. I have a witness. One witness is not trusted. But when Torah tells you one witness is not trusted, it says one witness. Eid echad is not trusted. Why say echad? Echad is an extra word. Just say eid einay meheman. Witness is not trusted, which would mean that you have to have two. Why do you have to specify one? To teach you that any time Torah does not specify one, the word aid is a general term. It means witnesses, testimony. You have people there that saw. So we learn from that pasuk that every other place where Torah says aid, it means two. This is a classic way how the Gemara will learn out many halachas that apply to many different cases. In our situation, how do you know that you believe one witness that saw her, that she sinned with another person, that she was impure with another person? How do you know that you trust him? Because it says aid. And we already know from somewhere else that any time Torah says aid, it means two witnesses. When it talks about the rare case, when it talks about one witness, that one witness is not believed, Torah will specify echad. Okay. Anytime Torah says aid, it means two. Unless the Torah specifies and says we're talking about one witness. And Torah says you don't have two witnesses there. You only have one. Unless Torah says specifically there's no two, just one, it means that we're talking about. For example, it says she was not caught. She is prohibited. If not for this, I would have thought that this whole Sota situation, one witness is enough. You're telling me that I would have thought one witness is enough. Let me ask you a question, he says. If there isn't even one witness, how in the world would she become usher? Right? You're basically learning from here that she wasn't caught. That means she didn't have two witnesses, she only had one. So now she is prohibited to be with her husband because we're not sure what the status is. What do you mean? You want to tell me there was one witness? Obviously there's one witness. If not, how could there be no witnesses? You have to have at least someone that saw. We say one witness is not, we don't have one witness, which means one witness is not believed here. So you basically learn that you really have to have two in order to prove this. So we learn the word davar from money. Every case where it says davar, by monetary issues, we know it has to be two, and it says davar. By the impurity and stuff like that, it says davar. Anytime it says davar, we now know it means two witnesses. Even though it doesn't say clearly over there, we know that it means two witnesses. We have to have two witnesses that saw her that she stopped from the native. Hashem tomorrow, Daf Gimel. Thanks for joining. Let us know where you joined. Like, share, subscribe.
What if you didn't warn her not to do it, and there's some witnesses two witnesses that saw that she talked to somebody, but there was no warning?